COX-2 inhibitors like Celebrex to reduce pain and inflammation?
Yes.
Okay. So N-acetylcysteine helps to regulate and downregulate excessive production of the inflammatory cytokines. So you can see if you're using the X2O and using the natural selection together and using the Cardiozyme, it's having a powerful down-regulatory effect on the inflammatory cytokines that's creating all the pain and inflammation. And it doesn't matter whether it's in the gut, the brain, or wherever it is. It helps to down-regulate all of these pro-inflammatory, excitatory things. Alpha-lipoic acid is both water and fat soluble. And the other great thing about this is this product can easily bypass the blood-brain barrier. So you want that to happen with the natural selection. If you've got toxins in the brain, for example, aluminum is one of the few minerals that can easily bypass the blood-brain barrier and contributes to the neurofibrillary tangle, or that tangled up mess in your brain that creates the problem associated with Alzheimer's and dementia. So you want natural ingredients, protective ingredients, detoxifying ingredients that can bypass that blood-brain barrier and begin to do the good that it does. So that's another benefit. It also has B12, and it's B12 in this natural selection is in the form of methylcobalamin. Now you have cyanocobalamin, which is just regular B12. Methylcobalamin is a neurologically active form of B12. I've used that with great success with peripheral neuropathy, etc., because methylcobalamin is very neuroprotective. And so, would you agree with me that we have nerves in the brain, and we've got nerves throughout the entire body? And so, free radical damage, inflammation, all of these things can have negative effects. All right, let's see who's next. Cardiozyme, and I think we're on our last.
Can I ask you a question about
Yeah.
the blood-brain barrier and is the alpha-lipoic acid that goes across the blood-brain barrier, that what you said, or everything in that suspension with the palladium?
Guys, we'll have a Q&A tomorrow, but we really have it tight.
Oh, okay.
So we'll do a Q&A
Yeah.
tomorrow evening.
Okay.
Thank you, Rob.
All right, so what this does is this helps to promote healthy mitochondrial function. I keep wanting to turn the slide there. Okay, here we go. How many of you have heard the term mitochondria? All right, the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. And so with the mitochondria, for example, in one end of the mitochondria comes a molecule of glucose. Out the other end comes 36 molecules of ATP, which is the fuel. That's what runs your cells. With cancer patients, first of all, we want aerobic respiration, and that's where that you're producing cellular energy involving oxygen. That's what we do want, is aerobic respiration. Cancer, for example, is more anaerobically inspired rather than aerobically inspired. Anaerobic respiration is ancient respiration, the way plants get energy. We are not plants. We are humans that require aerobic oxygenation. And so anaerobic is not a good hair day. Anaerobic only produces about 2 molecules of ATP. So had you preferred to make 2 gallons of fuel or 36 gallons of fuel? There are a lot of things that will adversely affect the mitochondria. Chemicals can affect it. Some of the chemicals that we're talking about, chlorine, fluoride. One thing in particular is mercury and cadmium, aluminum, the halides. All of these things can interfere with cell respiration. And we'll give you an example of cell respiration. I want everybody to take your hand and put it in front of your face like this. Now try to take a deep breath. It's kind of hard to do, right? All right, now take your hand away. Take a deep breath. Okay, this is aerobic respiration. That is anaerobic respiration. Okay, so you want your cell to be able to breathe and have oxygen to burn the toxins. So if you're in an anaerobic state, then it becomes more difficult to burn up the toxins that need to be burned up. And so And you get Cardizine, and I think
It
it's
went.
free. Okay, here we go. All right, let's talk about the Cardizine, and this is the last one. Now the Cardizine, first of all, we made the statement earlier that according to worldwide literature and research, chronic inflammation, not inflammation, but chronic inflammation is the etiology for most chronic degenerative disease, bar none. It plays a role in allergic diseases and asthma, arthritis, Crohn's disease, et cetera, et cetera. Some of the symptoms of inflammation: acid reflux, cancer, arthritis, chronic pain, high blood pressure, heart disease, UTIs. So Cardizine has cyanol in it, which is a marine algae product, and it helps to remove free radicals, supports cartilage in joints and healthy joint function. How many of you have taken Cardizine and benefited from arthritis and joint pain? Okay. So it supports cartilage in joints and healthy joint function. It also supports healthy blood vessel function. So one of the problems with cardiovascular disease is you have inflammation of the lining of the arteries. And if you've got inflammation of the lining of the arteries, then you've got free radical damage. So these things help to reduce the damage done from free radicals. Helps to maintain healthy cholesterol and triglyceride levels. But there's something else that it has in it that is not talked about very much. It's got 2,000 units of vitamin D. How many of you know that vitamin D is not a vitamin, it's a hormone? Okay? Let me tell you something about vitamin D. Remember I said earlier that a lot of these products are geared toward down-regulating inflammation? If you do that alone, you are well ahead of the game. We'll give you some amazing facts about vitamin D. First of all, this is July 2015. This is not on the slide. 2015 issue of Cancer Prevention Research reports, and I quote, "The findings of a randomized placebo-controlled trial of overweight postmenopausal women which uncovered a reduction in inflammation in response to weight loss and supplementation with vitamin D." So vitamin D helped to downregulate inflammation. Researchers in Belgium appeared to be the first to show that simple, natural, and cheap vitamin D lowers C-reactive protein. Is that on?
Yeah.
Okay. Lowers C-reactive protein. How many of you have heard of C-reactive protein?
Absolutely, CRP.
Okay, CRP, if you have an elevated level of CRP, that indicates that you've got some inflammation in your body. If you have elevated blood lipids and a history of cardiovascular disease in the family, and you've got elevated CRP, you're in deep weeds. Then if you throw in elevated homocysteine, you need to see your cardiologist real quick. Okay? So it helps to lower CRP. This is even more amazing. Even small amounts of vitamin D, about 500 units, lowered inflammation by more than 25% in a small group of critically ill patients. Now can you imagine taking this plus getting alkaline plus providing the nootropic brain food and all the other things that we have? No wonder you folks have such wonderful testimonies. I mean, you can throw that, that's hard to believe that somebody could take that many pills. That's pathetic. But that's pretty much what we see a lot of. In another study, researchers found that vitamin D deficiency is associated with increased inflammation in otherwise healthy individuals. One of the things that we do with an autoimmune patient is there's a balance between, they're lacking oftentimes in T suppressor cells or what we call T regulatory cells. The T regulatory cells is like the command and control center. When your immune system goes out with the natural killer cells and all of these weapons of mass destruction, then somebody needs to say, okay, job well done, stand down, come back and take a holiday with Jimmy Buffett and have margaritas on the beach. But if your T regulatory cells and your T suppressor cells are not efficient, then that immunological event just continues on and on and on, and then you start getting collateral damage. And that's part of what contributes to autoimmune diseases, is kind of like the Kenny Rogers philosophy of biochemistry. You got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. And so when you have an immune system that's gone amok, it doesn't know when to hold them and when to fold them. It doesn't know when to stop. And so vitamin D is one of the chief things that we use in regulating the autoimmune process. Now another thing, we don't have time to get into it, another natural product that Zuma has that is part of a foundational program for dealing with autoimmune diseases is the fish oil. The fish oil also helps in that regulatory process where you're lacking the integrity, so to speak, of the T regulatory cells or T helper cells. So it all goes back to balance. And so those are some of the things that we use in conjunction with this. Now, have we covered everything? I think I have. All right, so that's the car design, and that's my presentation. And I have enjoyed it.